Hi Chandrika, hi Vivek, hi Rajesh.
Hi Rupa.
Very good afternoon to hi.
Good afternoon.
So we must first of all thank Raghav for this wonderful initiative that he's taken in organizing this very nice, very beautifully put virtual conference on the current events that are happening virtually, hybrid or physically. So I'm very happy to have Chandrika Behl, Managing Director of Exhibitions India Group, with me today with Mr. Rajesh Bhagat, Managing Director, World X India Exhibition and Promotion Private Limited, and of course Vivek Shukla from Affairs. All of them here. Vivek Shukla is Director, Affairs Exhibitions India. So welcome all the panelists today here who are absolutely one of the best panelists that I have met today and discussed various problems that are being faced by exhibitions and fairs within not just India but across the world. So I'd like to begin this session. We have 45 minutes with us. So I'd like to begin with Vivek Shukla because it's education. So Vivek, can you just share with us how the pandemic and the associated disruption has changed your industry?
I think goes without saying it was a difficult time for all of us. I think a lot of shift has taken place in the education exhibition side. Most of the exhibition organizing company in this space, I think it was very difficult to even get into initial first 2-3 months into a virtual space. A lot of shifts has gone. Why? Because education sector is not as organized as other sector if you look at where other exhibitions are happening. So this is, I always call it, is a very self-organized kind of sector, because this does not come into Ministry of Commerce where we promote. So the whole sector is little not very much aligned with the other. It doesn't have an industry's status. So the problem was very significant in exploring what next can be done. But if you look at, I always see as a great opportunity for our company. We have been able to at least do something which otherwise without pandemic it would have taken another 10 years to get into virtual space or embracing technology or thinking out of the box. So no regrets at all, and certainly this industry, education, and especially medical, these are the two areas, not in industry, but these are the two sectors which always on a boom. So there's a lot of advancement, and it's a very progressive kind of sector. New things are coming. It's very dynamic in nature. So evolving with times is very much possible in such sector, which is education. So I think we have been able to, or many exhibition organizers in this space have been able to create an alternative medium. But honestly, the timing was such which was very, very difficult for all of us.
Thank you, Vivek. I now go to our next panelist, Chandrika.
Thank you, Rupa.
Similar question, how has the pandemic and the associated disruption? Yes.
Well, I'm going to stick with Vivek's positive outlook on this one. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So, I mean, of course, no question that the pandemic kind of wreaked complete havoc on this global exhibition industry. And I think 2020 was very difficult with everyone sort of reassessing and re-strategizing our businesses. Many colleagues we'd worked with for decades internationally were no longer in that role. So, of course, very sad. But like this industry has proven that in crisis lies opportunity. So what's most important to note was how much it taught us and how it demonstrated the resilience of the industry as a whole, whether it was organizers embracing technology to stay relevant or contractors pivoting with COVID relief efforts, etc. So just really shown the importance of being agile, being able to adapt and flourish in this new normal. Having said that, I'm of the firm belief that there's no replacement for physical events, but we certainly have learned to embrace technology and to use it to enhance all the physical offerings. And that is something that's here to stay going forward.
Thank you, Chandrika. Similar question to you, Rajesh, now about the pandemic and the associated disruptions connected with this.
Yeah. So thank you, Rupa. I think pandemic has affected not only the exhibition industry, but virtually all industries across, barring a few sectors. I think probably all sectors have been affected. And being part of the overall MICE industry, hospitality and airlines. So we are all interconnected. So of course, our industry was very badly affected. I think 1.5 years, barring a few lucky, like we were discussing earlier, few windows where people could do exhibitions. But I think it's been a difficult time for everyone, and even because I represent Hong Kong HKTDC in India, even Hong Kong since March 2020, we have not been able to do any physical shows, barring local shows over there. So, and as everybody knows, HKTDC we organize mainly international shows. So it's with all these quarantine rules and all, it's very difficult for companies to travel to Hong Kong. So in Hong Kong also, since March we have been actually clubbing a lot of our physical shows into virtual shows. So we did the summer sourcing week, in April last year. Then we did it again in August, the autumn sourcing week. And now here again, this time we are clubbing a lot of our physical shows into the lifestyle sourcing week. So basically the whole idea is to club the shows and try to make it more, across different segments, so as to invite more buyers virtually. So these are some of the ways how people are trying to overcome, this physical limitations that we all are facing just now. In fact, it has not only affected, if you see the exhibition industry, it has affected even sourcing requirements, even buyers have not been able to travel. So it's really disrupted sourcing, it's disrupted production lines. So, and because if you are not able to source, sometimes even production lines are affected because of that. So overall, a lot of disruption, but virtual, I think, has been a lifesaver during this period, because everybody was quick to adapt themselves and, at least try to help companies, SMEs, mainly SMEs, to at least connect to one another during this period through the virtual mode. And I think we also as a company have been little agile in this. We launched our own B2B.Asia platform, where we have helped to connect a lot of companies from South Asia, ASEAN countries to the India market, and vice versa. So I think this has been opportunities also, but of course at a cost. So that's how it is.
Yeah, a lot of people connected with our contractors, for example, the guys who provide the stalls to us. There are so many, like from World Trade Center, I know we have at least about 10 to 15 different contractors who work with us very closely when we have exhibitions, and I'm sure all of you have the same thing. In fact, your exhibitions are far more larger. So there is a lot of disruption even in those, particularly all your service providers. But let's not get into that, because if we get into that, it's going to be really a different ballgame altogether. So now let me ask Vivek a little bit about the exhibitions that you organize on education, your virtual fairs such as the Premier Schools exhibition, and share with us your experience in holding virtual fairs.
So I must tell you, I think it was getting into a virtual space. Initially, we thought that it's fantastic. It's very easy because we have a background of a technology company also. We run a technology company also. So we were amongst the first education fair organizer across India. The first one. We launched our first exhibition in July. The pandemic, the lockdown started in March. But honestly, two sides of it. First side was preparing your platform and doing all kind of visitors promotion to attract visitors to your platform. It's fine, but a great learning was the consumer behavior or the visitors behavior. I think tons and tons of registrations happening, and it gives you great excitement that we have arrived kind of feeling, that people are there. So many registrations. This never happened in a physical exhibition. But the turnaround, but look at the time spent over an exhibition. Online, people are coming, moving out in a fraction of a second. or maybe in few minutes. So which doesn't happen in a physical exhibition. So I think it was a great learning. So first exhibition in July, and we thought, no, this is not what we are expecting out of this virtual. So I mean to say, in so many years we have been, all of us, I think, have been working on these number of buyers or exhibitors going to these number of cities. That was a landmark and milestone which was there in our mind. Now here the complete perspective was different. A great learning, like such kind of learning which was used to happen when we started our business. So the consumer behavior was a great study, and making changes accordingly, and doing a lot of calling to the buyers or the prospective consumers. So I would say, this certainly has given us, I think, most of us, a new dimension added to this exhibition industry, which we cannot even think of, letting it go. Now we have to embrace it and move together. But yes, this is not going to be as simple as the virtual space as we think. These needs a greater amount of intervention of technology, understanding, digital. I think it's a combination. It's a great study where I think all of us have to rework. I always say that we restarted our company getting into the virtual space. It was certainly not an easy thing.
I can understand, because this has been a great challenge to everybody, and supposing we are completely dependent on our Wi-Fi's. Most of the times I find that we are not even able to get connected.
Brilliant.
So
I think
there are these
fantastic point.
different challenges.
So one project which we did with the Ministry of Education, promoting Indian education in 65 countries. So the whole platform was made in such a manner that even in a 2G connection in Africa, the students can access the platform. So what are the elements needs to be there on the virtual space? So it cannot be too rosy. End of the day, the purpose of the platform should be such, it should serve students in India or in Nepal or in United States, and even some countries in Africa. So that sensibility, unless until you get into that, those are the things which people tend to miss out. I think you raise a very, very relevant point which we experience ourselves. So this is really very exciting.
Went through a problem just in this regard. Yeah, please.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, I'm through.
Nice.
Rupa, I've given my response. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I think something is wrong.
Oh no, just talking about Wi-Fi.
Can you hear
and it
me?
seems like
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear you, Rupa. Good.
Yeah.
I spoke about Wi-Fi and started.
Yeah.
exactly.
Talk of the devil.
Maybe it is so sensitive. This is artificial intelligence working. Yeah, Chandrika, it's the same question to you. You've been organizing a lot of virtual conferences and associated webinars. Some of the prominent ones include Convergence India, Expo and Smart Cities India, Solar India. Just tell us a little bit about it, and what is your experience that you would like to share with us?
Sure. So through the lockdown and beyond, we've successfully organized webinars almost on a weekly basis, including the technology and infrastructure spectrums that we work on. And initially, the idea was just to keep the industry optimistic, well-informed, and to stay engaged with all our stakeholders. Having said that, while the webinars were great and really enabled us to stay in touch with the industry, stay relevant, we saw that the quality of engagement in an in-person event or conference is so much higher. We were very lucky to be able to do Convergence India and Smart Cities India Expos this March live and in person at Pragati Maidan. And we were really able to leverage technology to ensure that the expo was international, whether it was exhibitors, speakers, or visitors at a time where travel wasn't possible. On our conference stage, we were able to connect with city leaders from across the globe. There was one session in particular where we had, of course, mayors from India who were physically present at the show. Some people from Southeast Asia, some from South America and other parts of the globe. Everyone sharing their learning and experiences. So something like this wouldn't have been possible without technology. And it's so much easier to form these connections using technology. And while these sessions were available on our virtual expo platform and social media, what drove the quality engagement with the live audience and the people on a physical stage. So I think the benefit of doing something face to face is obviously always huge, and there's no replacement for it. But certainly, technology can be used to further elevate that experience for all stakeholders. But like Vivek said earlier, when you're going to a physical trade fair, you're going with the mindset, I'm going to spend my whole day here, I'm going to spend half a day here, and I'm going to meet everyone I need to meet. Whereas when you're on your laptop, you're checking your emails, and you have, I believe the sweet spot is 22 minutes for someone, they say, to be actively engaged. So the content that you need to do and the registration numbers you need to go into a virtual event before it even starts must be very, very high to compensate for that.
You must have also faced problems with time zones, because if you're doing a virtual program with so many different countries involved, then you have to have a time which is convenient to everybody. Sometimes, like, we start a meeting at 6:30 in the morning to make it convenient for somebody else in another country to participate. So these are other problems. So can you say something about that too?
Yeah, sure.
That?
This is the reality of business today. So for our physical show that we did in March, those were with the time zone of India in mind. So we kept our conferences and everything according to that, some early mornings for some people. But we recently did a show in Canada where the timings for us had to be 7:30 to 1:30. And we had about 50, little under 50 exhibitors. So people are willing to do what they need to do in this scenario just to find that new business or to generate those leads.
Yeah, so this is a very big challenge which I've seen with regard to times, because matching the time of different countries where you have different country participants coming together, is a very, very big challenge. Rajesh, you have so much more experience in virtual exhibitions. So can you share your experience on this and stress on how you use the social media in making it either popular or getting more visitors? How did you do that? So share these secrets with us.
Sure. So just like I think many companies, we also, first thing we did was to readapt ourselves. So we launched our own digital platform, B2B.Asia. And with the help of that, we were able to do a considerable number of shows. So what we realized in the virtual format, like what my esteemed panelists also has spoken, is how do you retain people? How do you ensure that they are able to be connected? So I think the biggest challenge is when you do a virtual platform, you have to make sure that you are actually matching the right people with the right people, so then it becomes a little more interesting. Otherwise, if you just create a virtual platform and then expect people to come on their own and, just go booth, jump, go, that is all possible in a physical show. But when you are doing virtually, you have to really do a lot of, spade work. And that makes it very, very difficult and challenging. But at the same time, if you do that job well, I think then it pays off, because then the exhibitors also appreciate that they've met the right companies, and even the buyers are then, they are more forthcoming in ensuring that they visit your platform. So when we did B2B Asia, we created two types of, modules. One is a pure business matching module, and one is a virtual fair module. So many times people are not interested in the virtual fair module because virtual fair is very open-ended, whereas business matching is more specific. But we gave both the options, and I think we did a lot of activities with our neighboring countries like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, and with ASEAN like Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and also we did some activities with China. We are also doing some with Turkey, Latin America, and European countries at a later point of time. And I think the key to all this has only been very, ensuring that a lot of business matching activities take place. So that, so you need I think in terms of a team, you need a greater engagement with the with your staff, as well as with your buyers and as well with your exhibitors. So that engagement level is at a different level altogether, And as far as promotion, of course, we have used all channels, especially to promote amongst the exhibitors as well as the buyers. We have to promote through all the channels. Social media playing a very major role in that. But again, social media plays a very supplementary role, because at the end of the day, it is not only through social media that it only creates more awareness. But what really attracts people to come is, to see whether the platform is right for them or not. And that is where, you have to make that difference. In fact, we are launching our, we have been doing textile fairs for many years, and we are now, we used to do it in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and physically, but now first time we are launching it in a virtual format. So instead of having now when you're doing virtual, there's no geographical location, right? So we decided to make it completely international, and we call it International Business Matching Week. So, and we are facing the same challenges of the time differences and everything. So we have to keep different time zones for the European and the US market, different time zone for the ASEAN market, and the different time zone for the South Asia market. So 3 time zones we have to work when you're doing an International Business Matching Week. So that are some of the issues that one has to deal with. But it's interesting, and if you do it well, you can get a fairly high success rate. I would like to make one observation over here. Since I've been representing Hong Kong Trade Development Council, I think HKTDC has played a very visionary role, even long before the pandemic, or even long before even pandemic was probably even thought of, or something like this could happen in this world. Since 2012, HKTDC has been doing a lot of hybrid versions, but we never called it hybrid. Chandrika will know about it. We call it that, small order zone, so where we invite companies who are not able to participate physically. We tell them, you send us 10 samples, we'll display them on a showcase. We'll display them on the showcase pavilion. We generate a QR code for them, and we encourage buyers to come. If the buyers like it, they scan the QR code, they are connected to the companies. We take down their inquiry forms and we send it to the company. So this was being done since 2012, even before the pandemic, so, and we also have a hktdc.com sourcing zone, so people have been using that since a number of years to source for products. And we have, in fact, we generate almost 24 million inquiries every year through that sourcing zone. So these are interesting things, and I think this is how I feel that the future is not going to, virtual is not going to go away. The hybrid versions are not going to go away. In fact, phygital is something which we will be working on, in the times to come. So phygital will be the new buzzword now. Yeah, Rupa?
Do you think, Rajesh, you're saying something.
Yeah. No, I said, like, phygital is something which is now going to,
yes,
be the way forward. Yeah, the way forward. So it'll be always physical, but of course, like everybody, all my predecessors also said, nothing replaces physical. Like everybody likes to do business over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, which you can't do on a on a virtual platform. So that will remain. Yeah. But phygital.
What about language? What do you think about? What do you think about language? Is language going to become a barrier for virtual or hybrid exhibitions?
No.
So that, that was always a barrier where, whether it was physical or not. So, you had to take help of interpreters and also, which you need to do even for virtual in case. Yeah.
Interpreters, the translators, Google now. Google is the answer to all our problems always. So I don't foresee that being too much of a issue.
You don't see that much, you don't see that as a problem?
I feel like after everything we've dealt with, language is something we can all certainly figure out. between.
Maybe not for your kind of exhibitions, but if it's supposing it's a handloom exhibition.
I mean, yes, we do a lot of work with China. So even at a physical show in March, we had about 60 exhibitors participating hybrid. So we had translators for all of them on our end here. And in some cases, if needed, they had translators there as well. So, I mean, these are their solutions to these sort of circumstances for us at least.
The reason I'm bringing this out is so that everybody knows what could be the possible problems which we have faced here when we've organized some of these virtual exhibitions.
Sure.
Most of the viewers had a problem understanding. Most of the viewers had problems even filling up the forms. But of course, that is because they were viewers and they didn't have this kind of experience before. And this is the first time they were thrown into a problem like this where they had to sell virtually. But okay, this has been a very interesting dialogue, and I would now come to our third question. Vivek, have you experienced any challenge in getting buyers or particularly parents for your virtual fairs, which probably wasn't happening in physical events?
So honestly, attracting buyers or attracting prospective visitors, that challenges we have not faced at all. Because even during our physical exhibitions, there's a marketing mix to it in terms of visitors promotion. So advertising and press advertisements or digital promotions or social media marketing. So those things are there, and everything is being applied in a virtual space, virtual exhibition as well. So attracting customers with a different line of the challenge was the communication strategy was important. The mediums of communication was no innovation was required there. So the same Facebook, Instagram, or conventional media we used to use. But I think communication strategy or creating a very simplified line of communication which should comfort the buyer. Okay, this is such a easy, just 3 clicks and your engagement can start. So that was the most integral part. I have seen many exhibitions where because of the communication was not appropriately designed. I think that impacted the visitors' turnout. Because people were finding, oh, this is something, I don't know how this is going to be, the platform will be like. Because like us, even the consumers who are the buyers or the prospective visitors, they're not too accustomed using such platforms for interaction.
Yes.
So the learning is happening on our side. This is our bread and butter or jam and cherry. So we are trying to prepare ourselves so that we can cope up with the current pandemic scenario. But on the other side, maybe the discomfort level is not as higher as what we are in. So it's a matter of time. So already the consumer side, the market was segmented. People were thinking, okay, fine, after 6 months we'll look into it. What's the hurry? So the hurry is there on our side in order to promote our sector through exhibitions. So that was one major issue. And secondly, understanding. And everyone is not too, comfortable when it comes to technology. Some people are very, very comfortable having a face-to-face interaction, right? So it's all about your mindset and acceptance of technology. So that was one area. But yes, attracting for us was not a major challenge, but this could be a major challenge for many other exhibition organizers, because some key component which is very important, which needs little attention. So making a very simplified platform is also very important, not too complicated, because if it's a hardcore B2B exhibitions, you have limited buyers and people are looking at engaging with you. So whatever critical you make it, they will spend time, they will call the hotline, they'll get into it. But if it's a semi kind of thing where you're not having a hardcore a semi buyer kind of thing, people are not too serious, you want to engage them, then convince them about your product and services. For them, attracting their attention is certainly could be a challenge, and I'm sure someone must have faced some challenges while doing the virtual. I think Chandrika and Rajesh will be able to add a lot, because they have done plenty of virtual fairs as well.
A message from you to parents and students. What is it that you would like to say?
This is for me?
Yes, because you're doing education.
So message from me to the parents and students. I think the advantage side, what we have faced, because we were engaging with the students and parents, so the complexities were very very limited in our case. But one message is very very clear today, whether it's a e-learning happening back home, or if it's a physical classes, technology adoption is extremely important in present times, not only for the students, because our children staying back at home and attending classes, I think now parents have also understand the importance of at least understanding what is Zoom and how to log in, because these things were absolutely critical for many in many households. So the penetration and the understanding of these things were forced on us, and when our children are engaged, I think India digital learning has completely escalated. I think I don't know how many multiple times. This is the most important part. So this is something. This is a journey. I think a beautiful start with a bad note of pandemic, but this was something I think which has kick-started, and multiple levels of gains we can expect when you can understand, when parents are engaged, parents are understanding how the technology is playing. Look at the market they are preparing themselves for. So today, even doing a fashion and lifestyle exhibition, if it's a great experience, a virtual platform, you can still touch them, which could have been difficult before the pandemic.
Thank you, Vivek. That's a great message. Chandrika, to you, do you face any challenges in sustaining online visitors and participants as against physical events?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's challenging, and there's been so many webinars and virtual events, and so much of that happening over the last year and a half that there's also some level of fatigue with visitors. But most of our shows and events we do are very focused and in a niche environment, so people who come to them are normally also there for the speaker or for the specific networking that they need to do. But what we did do, even for the physical show that we did in March, we encouraged all our visitors to, we had lounges throughout the venue, which allowed them to connect with the laptop to our virtual fair and meet those buyers who are present virtually. So those kind of things we're all figuring out the best way to keep improving those systems. And in terms of sustaining them for a while, that I think it'd be more difficult than getting people to the show. They join, but to keep them there for 4 hours, 6 hours, sometimes is hard. So I think that falls on us then to make sure that you're really having either great content or offering some incentives, or I think that's we're constantly learning. Between March 2020 or April, whenever we did our first webinar, to now, I think we've come a long way in terms of how we operate also.
Sellers and the visitors, I mean the buyers, are you actively involved in that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the backbone of it, right? Because you get exhibitors, you get your sponsors, but if they don't get that, they don't meet the people they want to, then all of it is it just makes no sense. So visitor promotion for us is as important as getting exhibitors to the show.
Which is your forthcoming exhibition?
So in March again, March is when we've always done Convergence India. So 23rd to 25th March 2022 is when we're doing both Smart Cities and the 29th Convergence India. We have some shows happening where we in Dubai in the next few months, and I hope travel will remain open and we'll be able to take our companies to those. Rajesh, waiting for you to tell us when we can go back to Hong Kong. Not used to meeting you virtually, but rather at HKTDC. So I hope that will resume at some point also.
I have always met Chandrika more in Hong Kong than in India,
Yes, so, at least 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
So you should now thank exhibitions. You should thank Raghav Khosla for organizing this.
Absolutely, right. Thank you to Raghav
for this platform.
For this.
Yeah.
Okay, Rajesh, coming to you. What are the financial and technological challenges faced by organizers, venue providers, and delegates in India for hybrid formats?
Yeah, so I think technology is a major challenge, because as Vivek also mentioned, that right from Wi-Fi to setting up booth, that actually adds to the cost. I mean, when you organize a physical show, there is X factor, X cost that which you have already factored in. But when you're doing hybrid versions, or versions, then there is, especially in hybrid, the first and foremost is to, get samples from your exhibitors in time. And if your exhibitors are, say international, or if they are coming from different parts of the world, to organize that, and then you have to display them yourself, and you have to take out a photograph and send it to them whether the display has been done properly or not. And then, ensuring that there is a lot of technology involved in that, in terms of having sufficient Wi-Fi bandwidth, over there, the setting up their virtual meetings over there in the booth. So the whole onus, which was earlier, which was on the exhibitor's side, is now taken upon yourself. So the entire onus falls on you. So that is a very big task, especially if you're planning to do hybrid versions. Of course, virtual versions don't have that sort of a limitation or a expense. But then, as Chandrika mentioned, there's a virtual fatigue that has set in, because first, if you remember, when the last year in 2020, when the pandemic had just put us all at home, there were so many virtual seminars and virtual conferences happening, and a lot of them were going quite full. And then I myself started opting out for so many of them, so you can't attend many of them, and then, the other things take precedence. So then it becomes a bigger challenge for you to get that many exhibitors or buyers to attend the show. Hybrid is a good option. I think in the future it will create more opportunities, because now I think most exhibition organizers will have to give three options to the companies. One is the physical version, one is the hybrid version, and one is the virtual version. So in that way, it has expanded our reach to more exhibitors and buyers also, because there were some buyers who were not able to come, there were some exhibitors who were not able to travel. Maybe now they will if there's a hybrid version or virtual version, they may be able to come. Because many times, especially, many people yet don't know about the India market. So I always tell people that this is a virtual format, or the hybrid format, at least gives you a better idea about the Indian market. At least you come to know what is the demand supply over here, what are the price points, what is the acceptance levels of your goods over here. So it helps you to do a lot of market research and develop a lot of market intelligence also. So that way, hybrid and virtual has advantages, because it has expanded the market, but it has also increased, I think, a lot of responsibility on the organizer. So with those things, technology, I think that is a major constraint. But at the same time, the initial technological challenges which are there, have largely been overcome, because now with 1.5 years, I think people have already adopted the digital way of life. So whether it is, even marriages now are happening digitally, people are giving blessings digitally. So I think digital way of life has been quite fairly adopted in this 1.5 years. People have learned to live with that. And we still feel that face-to-face meetings is the best way forward. But that is still time to go. I think mainly for international events. Chandrika mentioned that she was able to do a few physical activities. But when it comes to international, when you have international speakers or international companies, then again, primarily because of the quarantine restrictions, just now people are, we are not yet clear which country is going to accept even your Covishield.
Covishield, yes.
UK just relaxed that rule just now, but otherwise they were not even accepting Covishield. So with these travel restrictions, quarantine restrictions, traveling abroad, and for companies from international companies to come to India, I feel is still some time away.
Maybe the world will have to discover a new island which will only be for exhibitions. So when you go there, you go tested and you come back to your country, so you don't pass it on to the rest of the country. If you're there, you're quarantined there after 15 days. You don't know what are the new innovations that will come in this world. But yes, I'm sure exhibitions and conferences will take off in the near future. And with this positive note, one line from each one of you, what would you like to say to conclude this session? Vivek, you.
Okay, so hybrid sounds good, but actually this is not going to be very easy because the virtual space, the virtual exhibition should not be like an online directory of buyers or sellers. So unless and until the experience which influences the mind or the showcase value of a product or services which is generally done in an exhibition can be showcased in a virtual format through augmented reality or technology integration, I think the impact will not be there. So a lot of understanding and hard work is still required, in terms of building up the virtual space along with the physical one.
Thanks, Vivek. Chandrika.
I would say as my one line that there's no replacing a physical trade fair, but hybrid is here to stay. And all this technology really has the potential to enhance our fairs and businesses and really give opportunity for growth if used in the right way, because it gives you access to and potential to things which were so restricted earlier. So I think we might meet like this in the future again, and it won't be such a novelty then.
Thank you. Thank you, Chandrika. Rajesh.
Yeah. So I feel hybrid will probably get more complex as time goes by, especially once 5G comes in play. I mean, just imagine if you have 5G technology and then you have virtual reality, artificial intelligence. I think hybrid is going to become very, very complex as time goes by. Imagine you are wearing those virtual reality headsets and entering a fair and then going booth by booth. Hybrid versions will completely change the way we look at it today and the way we see it in the future. And with this blockchain technology, I think many companies will adopt blockchain to even authenticate their products so that you don't have to fear whether the biggest fear is samples. How do you see the samples? How do you feel the samples? But probably with once this authenticity factor gets into play, even those things may be overcome. But of course, I'm not saying that physical is going away. Physical is there to stay forever. I think that is one thing the whole world has come to realize, that physical exhibitions are the only way forward. But hybrid will be there also, and I think it'll get more complex as time goes by.
You never know with 5G and all the new technologies, it will just pull the buyer from wherever he is and catch hold of him and bring him online. You never know that's possible. Yes.
We have virtual cars going forward, so we may not need any physical.
We may not need it. So thank you so much. The panelists have been wonderful and fantastic, and you have all shared some of the most emerging issues which is being faced by everybody across the world. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Chandrika. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Rajesh. And Raghav, to you, a big thank you for bringing us on this platform and getting us to know each other. Thank you so much. And let's keep in touch and do hope to see you. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for moderating this.
Thanks, Vivek.
Rajesh, Chandrika, pleasure meeting you both. And
pleasure meeting all of you.
You too, Vivek.
During our physical exhibitions, we can meet up for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Stay in touch. Thanks,
Okay.
Rupa, for moderating
Thank you.
this session.
Thank you. Bye.